I usually don't ask this early, but if you could like the video and subscribe, it would mean a lot. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and your support can really help get my content out there. Thanks. The cool evening breeze swept through the streets of Sydney as Luke Henderson, a 31-year-old architect, sat on the balcony of his sleek apartment, staring out at the sprawling city skyline. It was a beautiful sight, but his mind was elsewhere. In his hand, he held a small velvet box, a ring he'd been saving up for over a year to buy for the woman he believed he would spend the rest of his life with, Megan Wilson. Megan, 29, was everything Luke had ever wanted. She was intelligent, outgoing, and had a sense of humor that could light up the darkest of days. They had met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. Luke had been instantly taken by her vibrant personality, while Megan had been drawn to his quiet confidence and steady nature. It wasn't long before they were inseparable. Now, after 2 years of dating, Luke was ready to take the next step. He had the perfect proposal planned at Watson's Bay, where they shared their first kiss. Everything was falling into place. But tonight, something felt off. Megan had called him a few hours ago saying she had to work late. Luke understood. Her job as a marketing executive was demanding. Still, there was a nagging feeling in the pit of his stomach that he couldn't shake. His phone buzzed on the table, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a message from his best mate, Tom Foster. Luke and Tom had been friends since childhood, growing up in the same neighborhood in Sydney's outer suburbs. Tom had become a detective in the police force, and his loyalty to Luke was unshakable. "Mate, we need to talk. I'm at Ivy nightclub and I just saw Megan with some bloke. They're getting too close for comfort. What's going on?" Luke's heart dropped. Megan? Ivy nightclub? It didn't make sense. She had told him she was working late. Confusion quickly turned to anger, but he couldn't jump to conclusions. Not yet. He called Tom immediately. "Tom, are you sure it's her?" Luke's voice was tense. "I'm 100% sure, mate, it's her. She's here with some guy, and trust me, they aren't just talking. I didn't take any photos because I didn't want to overstep. But you should come down here and see for yourself." Luke's mind raced. Could Tom be mistaken? Megan had never given him any reason to doubt her. She was outgoing, sure, but she wasn't the kind of person to cheat. Was she? He needed to see this with his own eyes. "I'm on my way," Luke said, his voice barely above a whisper. The drive to Ivy nightclub felt like an eternity. The normally short 15-minute journey seemed to stretch on for hours as Luke's mind cycled through a million scenarios. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Megan was just out with a friend. Or perhaps this was something innocent that looked bad from the outside. But Tom wouldn't lie to him. Tom wasn't the type to make things up. Luke parked outside the club and saw Tom standing by the entrance, his arms crossed, waiting. The pounding beat of the nightclub's music spilled out onto the street, mixing with the sounds of passing cars and chatter from groups of partygoers. "Mate, are you sure about this?" Luke asked as he approached Tom, his voice filled with uncertainty. Tom's face was grim. "I wish I wasn't. But I'm sure, Luke. I didn't want to believe it either. Come on, I'll take you to where I saw them." They pushed their way through the crowded club, navigating the sea of bodies dancing to the thumping bass. The lights were dim, the atmosphere thick with alcohol and perfume. Tom led Luke toward the VIP section at the back of the club, a secluded area with plush leather booths and a clear view of the dance floor. And then Luke saw her. Megan, in a tight black dress that hugged her curves, was sitting on the lap of a man Luke recognized instantly, Sam Mackenzie. Sam was a well-known businessman in Sydney, infamous for his wealth and playboy reputation. He was a few years older than Luke, always surrounded by women and rarely seen with the same one twice. And now he had his arms around Megan. Luke felt like someone had punched him in the gut. His vision blurred with anger as he watched Megan laugh and lean into Sam, their faces close, too close. She was touching his chest, whispering in his ear. And then, there it was. She kissed him. Luke's heart shattered. The love he had for her, the plans he had made, the future he had imagined. All of it crumbled in that moment. His hands clenched into fists, every muscle in his body tensing as he fought the urge to march over there and confront them. "Luke, don't do anything stupid," Tom warned, sensing his friend's rage. But Luke wasn't going to make a scene. As much as he wanted to yell, scream, and demand answers, he knew that confronting Megan in a crowded nightclub wasn't the answer. She had already shown him who she was. No explanation she could give would change what he had just witnessed. "I'm done," Luke said quietly, his voice hollow. Tom nodded in support. "Let's get out of here, mate." Back at his bay apartment. Luke sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the engagement ring in his hand. Just hours ago, this ring had symbolized the future he was so excited about. Now it felt like a cruel joke. He felt numb, like he was living in a bad dream. The betrayal cut deeper than he ever imagined it could. He had trusted Megan completely, and she had thrown it all away for a night with Sam Mackenzie. Luke knew what he had to do. He wasn't going to let this destroy him. He wasn't going to let Megan walk all over him. He had always been a man of action, and this situation wasn't going to be any different. The next morning, Luke made a decision. He packed up all of Megan's belongings into boxes and called a locksmith to change the locks on his apartment. He wasn't going to let her come back into his life and try to explain herself. There was nothing left to say. Trust, once broken, could never be fully repaired. Later that day, Megan called. Her voice was frantic, full of apologies and excuses. "Luke, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, I swear. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. Please just let me explain." But Luke had already heard enough. He didn't need to hear her lies. He didn't want to hear her excuses. He had seen everything with his own eyes, and nothing she said could undo the damage. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Megan, but it's not me. Goodbye." And with that, he hung up the phone and blocked her number. The days that followed were tough. Luke had to process not only the betrayal, but the fact that the woman he had planned to marry was now out of his life. The grief hit him like waves, some days worse than others. There were moments when he wanted to reach out to Megan, to ask her why she had done it, but he resisted the urge. He knew that closure wouldn't come from her. It had to come from within. Luke threw himself into his work, using the long hours at his architecture firm to distract himself. His colleagues noticed the change in him. He was quieter, more focused, but there was a sadness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Tom, ever the supportive friend, checked in on him regularly. They would grab beers at their local pub, and Tom would reassure him that he had done the right thing. "You're better off without her, mate. You deserve someone who respects you, not someone who's going to sneak around behind your back." Luke knew Tom was right, but it didn't make the pain any easier. Still, with time, the ache in his chest began to fade. The anger and hurt were slowly replaced with a sense of acceptance. He had dodged a bullet, and he knew that in the long run, he was better off without Megan in his life. One weekend, Luke went to Watson's Bay, the place where he had planned to propose. He stood on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, the wind whipping through his hair as he stared out at the endless horizon. It was beautiful, peaceful, and for the first time in weeks, Luke felt a sense of calm wash over him. He realized then that life had a funny way of working things out. Sometimes, the things we think we want the most turn out to be the very things that would have held us back. Megan had been a part of his life for a reason, but she wasn't meant to be part of his future. Months passed, and Luke found himself moving forward, slowly but surely. He focused on his career, and before long he had landed a major contract to design a new skyscraper in the heart of Sydney's CBD. His hard work and dedication were paying off, and he was starting to feel like himself again. One evening, while attending a work function, Luke met someone new. Her name was Emily. She was an interior designer, soft-spoken but with a sharp wit that immediately caught Luke's attention. They bonded over their shared love for design, and over the weeks that followed, their connection deepened. Unlike Megan, Emily was genuine, kind, and trustworthy. Luke didn't rush into anything. He had learned from his past, and he wanted to take things slow. But with Emily, things felt different. He felt at ease with her, like he didn't have to pretend or put up walls. She appreciated him for who he was, and that was all he had ever wanted. As their relationship blossomed, Luke realized something important. Megan's betrayal, as painful as it had been, had led him to a better path. He had found someone who truly cared for him, and for that, he was grateful. Looking back, Luke knew that life didn't always go the way we planned. There would be heartbreaks and betrayals, but there would also be new beginnings. The important thing was to never lose sight of your worth. Thanks for watching. What would you have done in Luke's shoes? Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one. We'd love to hear your thoughts.